What a privilege to be here on this territory and on this special day and to witness the admission of Dr. Hache as president. Congratulations to you, sir. And what an honor to celebrate each of you on this one of the most special days of your life. And to also celebrate this as the people who saw the induction of this new president, who's going to carry the future of this university in his hands. And congratulations, you did this. You finally made it. You dreamed of this day. You wondered if you'd even get here. But with the love and the support of all of those who sit behind you and those who could not be here and those who are here with us in spirit and your ancestors, you did it. You know, have you noticed that superheroes are cool again? I'm old enough to know when they were cool the first time. You know, they blaze across our movie screens, they jump in across burning buildings, and they're always there to save the world from evil. They come at a time when populism and intolerance and racism is sweeping the world. Where places are creating darkness where light was once shed, where they're building walls and they're building fences where neighbors used to sit at common picnic benches. Not a day passes by that I don't pray a few superheroes, maybe a lot of superheroes, take on the White House. And just yesterday, I was reminded that one already had. At the memorial of Representative Elijah Cummings, the son of sharecroppers, a civil rights leader, a man of integrity who stood up and spoke up when others wanted him to sit down and be quiet. He believed that in every second of his life lies an eternity of our individual and collective being, because in every second lies a choice. We can choose to live that second with love. We can live it with service. We can live it with giving. And in that act builds our eternal legacy and that of us as a collective. He arms himself not only with knowledge, but with the greatest power all of us have, which is love expressed. Elijah Cummings was a superhero. And he reminds me of another Elijah, Elijah Harper, who stood with an eagle feather in the House of Legislature in Manitoba to stop the Meech Lake Accord. He dreamed of a day when First Nations, Métis, and Inuit rights would be affirmed. And there's a long journey ahead, but just yesterday, in the BC legislature, they passed the United Nations Declaration of Independence into law. Elijah Harper was a superhero. Shannon Kustachin from the Attawapiskat First Nation, a little girl who loved blue flowers and seashells. And the Big Dipper was a superhero too. The only school in her community when she was a little girl was contaminated by over 30,000 gallons of diesel fuel that had leaked beneath the ground there and contaminated that school. She was a little girl who dreamed of going to grade 1. You know, the kids who sharpen their pencil crayons 5 times just to make sure they worked. But the school in her community was closed because of that contamination, so she didn't walk into a school, she walked into portable trailers. The government said they were only there temporarily. They were going to get a real school one day. And she believed them. And so did all the other kids. But by the time she was in grade 8, that school had nowhere appeared. Ice had built up on the inside of the walls of those rundown portable trailers, and mice would eat their lunches. So what does a little girl like Shannon Kustachin do about that? Well, she took a video of all of it, and she launched it out in the world. She believed that there were other children, maybe who grew up in different homes, maybe they spoke different languages, maybe they looked a little different than her, but they all had big hearts and they would understand that this wasn't fair. And she was going to send this video out and ask them to write letters. And thousands of them did. One little girl in Toronto saw Shannon's video and realized they were raising money for schools in Africa. And she thought that was an important thing to do. But why aren't we raising money for schools here, she wondered. She didn't know this was happening here in this country, where First Nations kids are getting less funding for education than everybody else because they're First Nations. So what did this little girl in Toronto do? Well, she organized all of her class members and she rallied them all together. They weren't politicians. They were like 10-year-olds. But 10-year-olds are different than politicians. They do something. And so they all decided that they were going to rally around and they were going to send a group photo and a group letter to the Prime Minister because they agreed with Shannon that real leaders don't just hold positions. Real leadership is showed through your actions. And as Shannon Kustachin said, school's a time for dreams and every kid deserves this. She led one of the largest child rights movements in Canada before she passed away at the age of 15, never having gone to a school where she was funded at the same level as other kids. But she left a legacy for all of us to follow in something called Shannon's Dream. There's a little girl not far from here named Autumn Peltier, and she sees the world's environment crumbling around her. She's not a politician either, but she is a superhero. She stands up with other youth like Greta Thunberg and other voices around the world of young people who are awakening our consciousness and our common humanity. You know, superheroes are needed more than ever. And what you didn't know today is that's why you're wearing the capes. That's what the capes are really all about. They're not just graduation capes. They are anointing each of you as a superhero. And you will teach us that when we match many things and we learn in the world with love, humanity blossoms. There will be social workers and healthcare workers in your class that are going to be there for people when they need you the most. As fine art scholars, your artistic works will provoke us to think differently and remind us of the interconnection of all things. Your music will form the anthems of our time and the anthem of our social justice marches, so that we might, as the poem goes, sing in the prisons while they tremble in the palaces, or to put a more modern spin on it, we will sing on the Mexican border while they tremble in the White House. I'd like to see more superheroes in Parliament too, because Spirit Bear and I are tired of trying to fight for First Nations children to get the same public services as everybody else. It's not something you should have to fight for. It's something that should be just ingrained in a compassionate nation. There is no room, in my view, for any parliamentarian or any senator who allows what the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal said last month was willful and reckless discrimination that leads to the deaths of some children and the family separations of thousands of others. But just like Elijah Cummings knew, Elijah Harper knew, Shannon Kustachin knew, Autumn Peltier knew, is that the power for change is not in our houses of legislature. It's in each one of us being called to be our own superhero to the world. And no matter where life's journey takes you, each of you will be called on to be that superhero for your family and for your friends. And that you need to be there when they need you. But there's something else too. Each of you will be called on to be a superhero for people you will never know and who will never know to be thankful. And you must be there when you're called. You will feel the doubt. You'll feel you're not ready. You'll even feel afraid when you're called, but offer loving justice anyway. It's not enough to care. You must do something. And each of you may wonder why superheroes like Elijah Cummings, Elijah Harper, and Shannon Kustachin, they left us when we thought we needed them the most. It's because they know that we're ready. Even though we don't think we're ready, they had done their work and they know we're ready to be superheroes too. Because it doesn't matter if you're first, if there is no second. And it does not matter if you're second, if there is no third. You may take your superhero graduation cap and regalia off after the ceremony, but you don't stop being superheroes. You must stand up when others want you to sit down. You must speak up when others want you to be silent, and you must always exercise the great knowledge that you gained here at Laurentian in the service of others. Because knowledge kept to yourself is not a gift to the world, and it's not what was gifted to you. The professors, the faculty, the staff, and other students generously gifted you everything they could, and so did your family. And doing right is not always easy, so if you're feeling afraid or unsure of how to defeat the darkness, tonight in the night sky, look up at that Big Dipper. There's a little girl who loved blue flowers and stars and wasn't sure that she could change the world either, but she did. And by the way, get a teddy bear. Every superhero needs one. It is an absolute privilege to stand in your company and go out there and get into lots of trouble for doing the right thing. Thank you.